Lawsuit accuses HHS Secretary Robert F. Kennedy, Jr. of ignoring vaccine safety law. Hello, I am Dr. K. Paul Stoller, and this short video is about the U.S. government's long-standing violation of the 1986 Vaccine Act. A new lawsuit filed against U.S. Health Secretary Robert F. Kennedy, Jr. accuses him of failing to comply with a key provision of the National Childhood Vaccine Injury Act of 1986, specifically the creation of a task force to improve childhood vaccine safety. Attorney Ray Flores, with funding from Children's Health Defense, filed the complaint in federal court. He argues that Kennedy, along with his predecessors at the Department of Health and Human Services, HHS, has failed to fulfill a long-standing legal obligation. The 1986 law requires the HHS Secretary to promote the development of safer vaccines that cause fewer and less severe adverse reactions. To do this, the law mandates the formation of a task force comprising top federal health officials, including leaders from the FDA, NIH, and CDC. It also requires the Secretary to report to Congress every 2 years on progress made. According to Flores, more than 6 months have passed since the beginning of the current administration, well beyond any reasonable grace period for Kennedy to act. The lawsuit seeks to compel HHS to comply with the law by establishing the task force and submitting the overdue biennial reports. Mary Holland, CEO of Children's Health Defense, emphasized that this is not a policy dispute but a legal failure. It is black-letter law that the HHS Secretary must convene a task force on how to make vaccines safer, she said. That no secretary has done so since the passage of this law is a blow to the rule of law. The lawsuit points out that since the law was passed in 1986, no HHS secretary has ever submitted the required safety reports to Congress. The only task force that was ever formed was created in 1990, but it was quietly disbanded in 1998 without producing any reports. Ironically, Kennedy himself filed a similar lawsuit in 2018 while working as an attorney. That case sought access to the very reports HHS was supposed to submit. In response, HHS admitted that no such reports existed. The 1986 Vaccine Injury Act was created in response to a crisis during the late 1970s and early 1980s, when the DTP, diphtheria tetanus pertussis, vaccine was linked to seizures, brain injuries, and even deaths. Thousands of lawsuits were filed against vaccine manufacturers, raising concerns about the viability of the vaccine industry. To stabilize the situation, Congress passed the act, which included two major components: a no-fault compensation program for vaccine injuries, and a legal requirement to continuously improve vaccine safety. The compensation arm, the National Vaccine Injury Compensation Program, VICP, has paid out over $5.2 billion to injured individuals. However, critics argue that the safety improvement portion of the law has been ignored. Flores' lawsuit highlights this imbalance, arguing that meaningful safety oversight was effectively abandoned decades ago. The suit also points to Kennedy's own public statements, including remarks that most childhood vaccines on the CDC schedule were not tested against inert placebos, raising questions about their risk profiles. Flores argues that without clear safety data, families cannot make fully informed medical decisions. He says this lack of information forced him to move his family from California, where no vaccine exemptions are allowed for any reason, to Nevada, which allows more exemptions. Flores further claims that recent actions by HHS, including those by the new Make America Healthy Again Commission on Vaccine Safety, do not fulfill the legal requirements of the 1986 law. He asserts that the same conditions Kennedy once decried as an attorney still persist, and now that Kennedy is in a position to change that, he should be compelled to act. Whether this lawsuit succeeds remains to be seen, but it raises long-standing questions about transparency, compliance, and the role of federal health agencies in balancing public health with individual safety and rights. Thank you for watching. The End.